Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Wednesday, June 10th, 2015. I am Dave Biddle, and I'm joined by Duane Long. Duane, I did a piece for the site yesterday ranking the top 5 quarterbacks in Ohio State history. Now, I know you disagreed with my list. You would put Terrelle Pryor atop the list. I had Troy Smith atop the list. Explain to the listeners why Terrelle Pryor should be atop the list, Duane.
Because he is the most accomplished quarterback that we've had at Ohio State. Look at what this guy's won. You know, you get caught up in all the suspensions and the forfeiting of games and all that. But this guy won a Rose Bowl and a Sugar Bowl. Who has won what Terrelle Pryor won? And that was through his junior year. He was going to win another major bowl and maybe a Heisman Trophy. He's been around for his senior year. The guy got it done. He ran this offense. He produced. End of story. He is the most productive quarterback in Ohio State history. That's just the way it is. It may change now with what the guys we've got now. I mean, look what Barrett did in just 1 year, and Cardell Jones did in one game, and Braxton Miller. I mean, combined yardage. Look at what he's done. But for the guys that have already been through the program, and that's who we should be rating. I don't think we should be getting into these guys that are still in progress. I think you have to look at Terrelle Pryor as the most accomplished, the most productive winner in Ohio State history. Absolutely, I do.
Okay, the case for Troy Smith. Now, he won the Heisman Trophy. Now, you can say, well, it was a weak year for the Heisman. But he's the only Ohio State quarterback to ever win the Heisman, and he's the only Big Ten quarterback to ever win the Heisman. Some people might say, well, what about Les Horvath? Well, Jack Park told me that he should be considered a halfback, not a quarterback. Of course, it was a different era. Horvath played a little bit of quarterback. But as far as the modern era, I have to put Troy Smith up there. Now, both Troy and Terrelle went 3-0 against Michigan. But, Duane, I think we can both agree those were vastly different Michigan teams they faced. I mean, Troy was a heavy underdog his first time facing Michigan, put up one of the best performances ever in the rivalry in 2004. 2005, he goes up to Ann Arbor, leads a pair of long touchdown drives in the fourth quarter. I mean, nobody was, and then the number 1 versus number 2 game, you know, he has another great game. I mean, nobody in Ohio State history was a better player against Michigan than Troy Smith. So just that alone puts him way up there for me. Then you add in the Heisman Trophy, and he has a Fiesta Bowl victory, only 2 losses in his complete career. Now, you're right. Just looking at bowl games, Terrelle should be ahead of Troy. But looking at the entire picture, I have to put Troy Smith ahead of Terrelle Pryor.
Well, I think I had him number 3 behind Rex Kern on my list. He was. You have to look at what he accomplished, but I also look at the. You know, you say he was 3-0. I remember him in the junior and senior year. He was a 2-year starter instead of a 3-year starter. I think he definitely deserves it. He didn't put up the numbers that Pryor did. I just have to look at it from that point of view. Who I want under center. If I'm going into one ball game, I just need to win this one ball game, and I would take Terrelle Pryor. I think he could do it more with his legs and with his arm. That's something else that I had over Troy Smith. But absolutely, you know, Troy Smith. I disagree that he's number 1, but like I said, I got him number 3 on my list.
How do you get past with Terrelle the Purdue game and some of the losses in his career? Because Troy, everybody focuses on the final game of his career and the Buckeyes getting waxed. Now, I say Florida had a pretty damn good head coach in that game, but I think the offensive line let Troy down in that game. The defense was horrible in that game. To put all that on Troy, I think, is unfair. I know a lot of people talk about that. But with Terrelle losing to Purdue, I just can't see I can't see Troy Smith taking Ohio State over to West Lafayette and losing a game. How do you get past Terrelle some of those losses that he had?
Well, I go back to the Purdue game in particular, made Brian Kerrigan a number 1 pick in the NFL draft because of that game. We had injuries on the offensive line, and they just kind of ran over our offensive line in that game with an elite guy. I remember that game distinctly. That Pryor couldn't even get in his drop good, and somebody was in his lap. Antonio Underwood, that was the game that he started. I think the only game he ever started, and they just ran through our offensive line with an elite guy, a guy that you just don't expect to see out of Purdue. So I think it was just a matchup situation, and the timing of those matchups, that these guys, we got hurt at a time when we were coming up against a guy we didn't expect to be as good as he was. And they just were all over Pryor in that game. Smith would have had even worse time in that game. He wasn't as mobile as Pryor. So I think that I don't really think you got to get into explaining away losses when a quarterback, just like you're saying with Smith in the against Florida, had two first round draft picks at end in those games, and they just ran through our offensive line. They absolutely mauled us up front, and Troy Smith wasn't going to win that game. A couple of tackles that had good football games would have made that a better game. That's where it all fell apart for us in that game. So I don't blame that one on Troy Smith anymore, and I blame Purdue on Terrelle Pryor.
Just to be clear, you're getting your bad offensive lines mixed up. That 2009 Purdue game, that was not the Antonio Underwood game. Antonio Underwood was Indiana at home in 2011, that forgettable 2011 season when Braxton Miller was at quarterback. But you're right, that was a porous offensive line that they took out there in 2009. Okay, switching gears, let's talk some wide receiver recruiting, Duane. The two names that are on the list seem to be Nate Craig Myers or Donnie Corley. Who do you prefer that the Buckeyes land? Who do you think that they will land? Do you think that they will land either one of those two? Just talk about Nate Craig Myers and Donnie Corley.
Nate Craig Myers by a long shot. I think he's the most gifted receiver in the class. I don't think it's a great receiver class. He's one that really stands out. He continues to talk the talk. And I see the opposite with Corley. He just seems to be trending toward Michigan State. I think we got a better shot at Nate Craig Myers. I don't think we're going to get either one of them, though. Pulling a guy out of the South like that, you got the regional draw. They're going to hear the SEC chant, even though Ohio State just whooped the hell out of the SEC in the bowl season. So I think that he's probably going to be drawn to stay closer to home. I think that some cash could exchange hands. We're talking about the SEC, and if they're not cheating, they're not trying. So I expect that we will see the SEC step in there and do whatever is necessary to keep him home. He's the guy that I really want. Corley would be outstanding, but for some reason he seems to be trending Michigan State. I don't know what brought that on. It isn't like we've pulled in so many great receivers this class that he's got to be concerned about the depth chart. I don't know. He seemed to be a Buckeye. I thought for a while he was. Maybe we can turn that around. There's some conversation about whether Urban Meyer has really gotten involved in his recruitment just yet and that he could turn the tide. We'll see. Either one would be fine. I'd rather have Nate Craig Myers. I'm just not feeling that we're going to see either one of them in Scarlet and Gray this year.
So that's the bottom line. Might not see either one of them sign with the Buckeyes. And last thing before I let you go, speaking of signing with the Buckeyes, so far they have 16 commitments in their 2016 class, of course ranked second in the country in the 24/7 Sports Composite, barely behind Florida State. So the Buckeyes have a very good chance of finishing with the number one class. My question to you, Duane, is how many they will sign on signing day. That's not the $1 million question. That would be who's Ohio State's quarterback is going to be this year. But I get that a lot from fans. How many will the Buckeyes sign in 2016? What's your take?
I think they're going to take 25. Urban Meyer does not allow for dead wood. There will be people, he's just not going to have guys who are not working hard, who are not trying to make themselves better, to make this team better. He is going to find a way to get those guys to say, you need to be somewhere else. I don't care what he's got to do. He's going to get to 25. I believe that. Last year we were having this conversation. We can only take 20. Would it take 27? I think that was the final total if you add Liam McCullough. So don't count Urban Meyer out. You might see some guys resting with Hoffa before this is over, but he's going to get to 25. However he's got to do it. It's just, I don't have no problem with that, Dave. I think that, my argument is we got little girls out here trying to make cheerleading teams at 10 years old, dance teams and all that, getting cut. So why can't a guy in college? If Urban Meyer would never tell anybody they needed to find somewhere else to play football if they were giving 110% effort every time, every workout, every weight room session. He wouldn't do that. But if you're not putting forth the effort, Urban Meyer is going to say, you know what, I need to find a guy who's ready to come in here, be 100% committed to being a Buckeye and working his tail off. So yeah, I think he'll get to 25.
I couldn't agree more. I think they'll find a way to get to 25, just as you outlined, and I also agree that I don't understand why people have a problem when college young men get cut, if you want to use that term. They have a problem with that, but they don't have a problem with little kids getting cut. Like you mentioned, cheerleaders at 10 years old getting cut, 8-year-old basketball players getting cut, getting cut from travel baseball teams. We don't have a problem with that for these little kids that might scar them for life, but these young men that are maybe 18, 19, 20, 21 years old, if they're told that they need to move on, we have a problem with that. So I agree, Duane. That's why I love having you on the show, because I agree with you. No, I love having you on the show because you come strong, you have great opinions, and I love hearing your knowledge. So thanks to Duane Long, and thanks to you guys for tuning into the show. I appreciate it. Hope you guys have a great day. Play that Buckeye swag, best damn band in the land.